Welcome along, everybody. We are ready for bronze. We are ready for the first Mystery Grand Prix of the season, in bronze that is, and it will be either Bahrain, Miami, or Saudi Arabia, as we can see there on the lovely spinny wheel of doom or of fortune, whichever one you want to call it, but depends what the result is, I suppose. But we are ready to get cracking then to pick the track for tonight's race, the Mystery Grand Prix Round 4 of Bronze Season 9. Here we go then. The wheel is duff spinning. The first two off the wheel, I should say, then will not be the track. Then the final track will be the track. There you go. But the first one off the wheel is going to be Miami then. So Miami will not be the track for tonight's Grand Prix. Unfortunately then, for those who wanted Miami, then we are not going to be having any USA action here tonight then. So we're going to be joint between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia then for the next spin. So Miami then ruled out then for the Mystery Grand Prix Round 4 then of Bronze Season 9. Then what's it going to be then next? It's going to be Bahrain, I think, off the wheel then, unless the wheel stops spinning then. Yes, it does then. Bahrain then is not going to be the track then for the Mystery Grand Prix tonight then, so it looks like there's only be one candidate left then to be picked off the wheel. We'll find out in just a jiffy then, but there we go. That it was a few people then unhappy with that as well then. But Bahrain then is not going to be the track then for round 4 tonight then. It is going to be the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix then in round 4 then for Bronze Season 9 then, as the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix gets picked off the wheel. Finally, the last one then, of course, the first two not the track for tonight then. The final one then, Saudi Arabia then, will be where we're racing here then for round 4 then. So that is that then. It is decided now then, and we can crack on then into the event itself then, as the track has just changed in the lobby screen as well. Fantastic stuff indeed then. But Saudi Arabia then is going to be round 4 then for the bronze division then tonight then, coming up in just a jiffy. And hopefully we can get yeah, there we are then. We're in the lobby already then. Good stuff indeed then, and we can now crack on then for the start of the stream. And so many comments indeed then. Jeddah, lots. Some people wanting Jeddah, some people definitely not wanting Jeddah, it seems like, in the comment section then. Formula Moments, or both the racing balls then. Ginger Age as well, not a fan then of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, it seems. But oh dear, my phone is slipping all over the place there. There we are. But unfortunately they are going to have to tackle the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix here tonight then, for round 4 then. That is that then. The track has been decided then. The drivers are now readying up then to start off the qualifying then into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And of course we've had Australia, China and Japan already then in this season. This is the quarterway point of season 12 of ALR, season 9 for bronze, but quarter of the way through the season then at the end of this one as well. Then Saudi Arabia then tonight then, after the mystery wheel then has picked it off the fun spinning circle, or whatever you want to call it. Q rain, says Ashton Army. Then goodness me, Saudi Arabia then in the rain would be pretty problematic, I think. I do seem to think that is, but nonetheless, we'll crack on. Rigged, says Formula Moments as well then. Well, there we go. And God damn it, says R as well then. I'm not quite sure who R is, but welcome along to the stream. But he is not a fan then of Saudi Arabia, it would seem there. Saudi is then, says Farf as well then. Of course, bronze admin then. Jinnah's got pole, says Beast as well then. Beast, of course, was I think doing a bit of practice sessions as with the bronze drivers as well then earlier on. So we will see how it's going to fare then. We're just waiting for the drivers to get themselves sorted, and we can crack on then. Red Raw, says Ginger Age. Goodness me. Right then, so there we are then. But yeah, hopefully we'll get ourselves started in just a jiffy, and we can crack on then with the qualifying then. We are all doomed, says Serious Mushroom, and that is very nice stuff indeed. Jeddah is a fantastic circuit then, but I think he may be referring to the human rights situation over there, but there we go. Nonetheless, we won't crack on into that. Then we will crack on then with the qualifying then in just a few seconds time, and get ourselves loaded in and ready to rumble then for the Jeddah Grand Prix, or the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix then, round 4 then of bronze season 9 then. The track has been picked off the mystery wheel now, and of course Miami and Bahrain being ruled out, then Jeddah is going to be the going to be the next circuit for round 4 then. And Casey has said that Jeddah is not a fantastic circuit, so he thinks otherwise there, but hopefully it will be all right then for the drivers then tonight. Then we'll see how it's going to fare then. Of course, qualifying then to set the grid then will be 20 minutes or so then of making sure everyone gets adapted and familiarized with the circuit then, before taking on the 25 laps of Grand Prix racing around the Jeddah Corniche circuit then. Good stuff indeed, and we can crack on now then as we get ourselves loaded in. But yeah, there we go. The first time for bronze then having their mystery wheel spun then at round 4. I think we've got another one in round 9 and round 10. There's a back-to-back mystery Grand Prix somewhere around there then. And there's a couple more then later on in the season as well then towards the very end then. So the wheel will be back then for the future. Of course, we've got back to normal running then with next week then with gold, silver and bronze taking you through Portugal in a week's time. But first we've got to tackle Jeddah then for the 20 drivers then on the grid then as we get ourselves loaded in then, get our telemetries up and running then, and cracking on then with the qualifying 18 minutes of qualifying then to unfold in front of our very eyes around this very famous for some very famous street circuit indeed then. So we'll get ourselves all set then, get the drivers then with their setup sorted as well. Then of course the mystery Grand Prix then does limit your ability to practice then for the track, which again can be beneficial to some and not so beneficial to others as well then. But we'll have to find out who's done the most then, who's got the grip then, who's got the track under their belt then as well in this qualifying session. Then we've got an outlap then for you, Mabra, then he's going to be taking us around the track then for the first time. I haven't got the audio sorted there, so there we go. There is the car audio then, there is the track audio I should say, going through then in sector 1 then. Of course the walls very close around the Jeddah Corniche circuit then, and of course a high pace around this circuit as well, the fastest ever street circuit that has been designed I believe. So yes, it can be problematic, let's just say that then. But of course bronze have done spectacularly well in the first 3 rounds of the opening stage of the season then, so let's see what they can do then in the Jeddah Corniche circuit as well then for round 4 then. We've got Leonardo said a very well-known Brazilian driver there, so hopefully he's going to be supporting the stream as well then. Good luck with you, or good luck for you then as well, Leonardo, as well. There's a hopefully a link in the description then if you want to join as well there. So yes, good stuff indeed. Right then, Umabro then going through into sector 3 momentarily now, and let's see what the Mercedes driver can do then on his first outing. Then the first outing for any driver around this circuit tonight then, of course. A few drivers then hopefully have got the setup sorted at least then, because of course they've had limited time to practice then around this Grand Prix because of the mystery wheel then that has been spun for round 4. Then Miami rolled out first, then Bahrain rolled out as well then, and now on to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and Umabro on the way then down towards turn 1 here. And flying through the first chicane then, very nicely done indeed then for the Mercedes driver, keeping it clean then around the outside at turn 2 then, just inside track limits as well, then heading into turn 4. This is where it gets dangerous, because that wall can definitely get in the way, let's just say that, for some people in gold then. We mentioning no names, but there we go then, through into the next left-hander as well then. Goodness me, that car almost trying to fly over those curbs as well then, but he's gone over the curb there and kept it within track limits at the same time as well then for Umabro. Then purple of course in sector 1 then, heading through the long banked hairpin then of sector 2. It seems long ago we had rain, says Real Ashton. Well, I was hoping we don't have any rain around here, because that could be, like I said, problematic then. But maybe we'll do something like that in the near future. Now into sector 2, sorry, for Umabro, then flying through then with some more DRS coming up then here into the depths of sector 2. Then the ERS getting a bit low then for the Mercedes drivers. We head into sector 3. Course purple in sector 2 as well then, as here's the first man out on circuit then, going through very nicely indeed then for the Mercedes. Then let's see what it's going to be then for the first time on the board here tonight. Then it's quite difficult to invalidate your time around here because the walls are so close. You can't get off the track there, really, can you? Now heading into the final corner then. This is where we've had a bit of a clout then for Max Verstappen then back in 2021 then, but it seems to be a-okay then for Umabro. Heading up to the line now for the Mercedes driver. Then let's see what it's going to be then for Umabro. It's a 31.5, puts himself P1 of course for the time being then. Brilliant stuff indeed. We've got you've not got Corey. Corey's in the car. Then Rocket Lead starting off a lap as well. Then where's the McLaren? Then McLaren of Jinnah, I think, is coming round that final corner. Then he's on the medium compound tyre. Then is the McLaren driver. Let's see what he can do then on those medium compounds. Heading up to the line then for Jinnah. Then it's a 29.0. Then puts himself P1 then by 2.5 seconds. That is pretty formidable stuff indeed. Then what can Ducanco do then in the Ferrari? Then Ducanco, I think, starting off another lap. Then he's done a 31.6 then on his first outing, but potentially going again then in the Ferrari as well. Then we'll come back to him and he goes through the first chicane. Good stuff indeed. And PS5 links in the description, then says Serious Mushroom then, so that is yeah, good stuff here. Just confirming that as well then. Fantastic. Good stuff in the Rocket League going fastest then. Here comes not Hungry Stars, it's Mr. Elite then. Mr. Elite coming up to the line then for the Haas team. Then let's see where the Haas is going to go. It's P2, 29.7 then for Mr. Elite. Then fantastic stuff indeed. Then Corey Brennan, the 30.3 in the Williams then up into the second row of the grid. Then as it stands then, where is Ducanco's teammate Casey heading up to the line then for the Ferrari driver. Then let's see what it's going to be then for the second Ferrari. Then it's P4 onto the second row, 30.5 then for Casey Jenny. Then good stuff indeed. We've just had Dynamo Dan jump up to 29.0 as well. Then he's on the soft compound tyres then, but he's on the same time pretty much as Jenner then onto the first row of the grid. Then we've got Hungry Stars jumping up to P4. Then both the Hasses then raking up row 2 as it stands as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed. Rocket Lee then is rocketing around the final couple of corners. Then let's see where Rocket Lee is going to go. These on medium compound tyres as well then for the Williams driver. Let's see what he can do then on those medium compound tyres. Can he rival Jenner's time? Then here he comes then Rocket Lee. Then Rocket Lee on pole position with a 28.9. Then the first man into the 28s here tonight. Then fantastic stuff from Rocket Lee. Then he is flying, and very good stuff indeed on the medium compound tyres as well. Then Astrodron then that was Jenner coming back in the pit lane then, wasn't it? We've got Yumabro then into the pits as well. Then there's a Red Bull going a bit slowly there. We go through then as we've got Rocket Lee jumping up the order. We've got Ducanco jumping up the order into P4. Then brilliant stuff indeed then from the Ferrari driver. Then looking very good indeed then on his first outing here. 29.6 for him, getting ahead of both the Hasses as well. Then Jake the Slayer 30.5 into P8 now. Casey unfortunately has invalidated his time. Then there's a McLaren right behind him of Astra John, I think there. So goodness me, that is going to get very tight indeed then if Astra John is on the lap then, and I think he is on a lap as well. Then goodness me, where is he? Where is he? Then there he is. Then he's gone past then the Ferrari then into the final corner. But I think Casey then was under a bit of pressure then from that McLaren. Then heading on to the final couple of corners. Then maybe got a bit of a tow. Then did the Astra John. Then did the McLaren, I should say. Then P6 then for Astra John. Then 29.8 then puts himself right in between the two Hasses and splitting the grey machines. I was going to say green machines there, but splitting the two Haas pair then in this session so far. Then Jake the Slayer down to P9. Where is his teammate Ginger Rage? And Ginger Rage up into P12 with a 8.4 then for 8.49, I should say, goodness me, for the Racing Bull driver. Then the slowest of the time runners as it stands, but there's still time then as Real Ashton then almost losing the back end. They're going into sector 2 there. Here comes ASR. I'm going to call here comes San, let's just say, we'll call him that. But I don't know what his name is, unfortunately. But San will do the trick in the Mercedes, then reserving in place of IRS, who's got a bit of a breakdown then on the motorway. Then it's P4 then for the Mercedes driver. Then 28.5 puts himself onto the second row of the grid then on his first outing here in bronze as well. Then good stuff indeed. And Gina has said Luke. Right, okay. Yeah, so there we go then. Right then, good stuff indeed. Anyway, right, Astra John coming back in the pit lane. Jake the Slayer back out on circuit then, I think starting off another lap now then for the Racing Bull driver. Then Real Ashton's up into P12 then, 31.3 then for Real Ashton, looking pretty good indeed then. Oh dear, he's gone off the circuit there at turn 1. Maybe just letting that car go through then behind him as well. Then Ginger Rage then down to P14. Winnie, Vintage, Dan, Smithy, Serious Mushroom and Luke then have not got themselves out of the garage just yet then, so unfortunately going to be in a bit of peril then in this qualifying session. There's a McLaren, I think it's Astrodron, getting himself back in the pit lane there and getting himself out of the way. Then we've got a Mercedes flying through. Then that is a Mercedes of Yumabro, who's on an outlet then. But the Racing Bull of Jake the Slayer. No, it's not Jake the Slayer. Jake the Slayer is, oh dear, what's happening to Jake the Slayer? Then he's having a bit of an issue then in sector 1 there. It seems they've got to get himself out of the way then of Real Ashton, who is not on a lap then. He's coming back to the pit then, I think. So we'll come back to him as well. Then Ginger Rage is on another lap. Then Ginger Rage is going for it again then in the Racing Bull. Then maybe had a bit more fuel on board, which is why the time was not representative then of the Ginger as we go through the first chicane this time then on his second attempt. Then got a lot of VRS to play with as we go into sector 1 then hot lap then down towards turn 4. And just about avoids that curve as well. It's a dangerous curve, that is. But he has done a good job then getting through sector 1 so far then, making sure we don't go over that curve because it can distract the balance of the car. Then going through, oh my goodness me, that car was in close control then from Ginger Age. Perfect stuff indeed. Almost 6 tenths up in the first sector. Then that would put him into the range of P12 then with Ray Ashton. And then potentially there's time to find then in the next 2 sectors as well then for the Racing Bull driver then heading through into the slalom climbing section then of Sector 2, then flying through there very nicely indeed. And now on to the money then. This is where it gets a bit more power hungry than this straight then, heading on to the first of the DRS zones on the lap, that is. Of course, there's a DRS zone on the main straight, but its detection point is activation point is actually before the start finish line then. Into the chicane we go then, and nailing that very nicely indeed for Ginger Ray's then, flying through then onto the back straight then, and one more DRS zone coming up now here for the Racing Bull then. There it is, the rear wing wide open then for Ginger Ray's then, flying towards the final corner now as we head into the last parts of the lap then, last corner of the lap as well then for the Racing Bull driver as well. Good stuff indeed then, very nicely done indeed. No Max Verstappen in sight there as we head up to the line now for Ginger Ray's. Let's see what it's going to be this time then for the Racing Bull. It's P11 then. He's improved to by 1.3 seconds then to P11, right behind his teammate then by only a few thousandths of a second then. So the top 10 just in sight then for Ginger Ray's, not too far away. Good stuff indeed. Where is the next McLaren's then? Ginner then. Ginner is on the soft compound tyres. Here comes Ginner this time. Then Ginner is going to do a 28.7, then puts himself on pole position then by 0.2 of a second exactly then to Rocket League. Fantastic stuff indeed then from the McLaren driver. Then looking very formidable here in Jeddah tonight then. Dynamo Dan is also on a lap then coming through into Sector 2, Sector 3 momentarily then. But Ginner then on to pole position then. A fantastic lap time indeed then from the McLaren. Let's see if he can hold that up then for the rest of the session. Then there's not much traffic then into Sector 3 so far. Quite a lot of traffic in the first two sectors on this lap then, but Dynamo Dan then is coming through into Sector 3 now then with some more DRS then flying towards that final corner. And there's a Kick Sauber right behind us as well then of Smithy. I think potentially there's quite a Kick Saubers and yet to set a lap time then in this session. Then of course they were 1-2 in Japan last week then, so maybe trying to replicate that form. Then we'll see if they can do that here in Jeddah tonight then. But here comes Dynamo Dan first, then Dynamo Dan up to the line. Then Dynamo Dan has stayed P3 then. He didn't improve on his previous time then. We've had a jump up the order then from Smithy then, 30.2 then for Smithy, then puts himself P10. Mr. Elite has jumped up to P2 then, P4 sorry, onto the second row that is, for Mr. Elite then. Good stuff indeed then. Hungry Stars also jumps up to P6 then, third row of the grid for him in the other Haas car. And Winnie, no, it's not Winnie, it's Mushroom. I think Mushroom just starting off a lap now as well in the Aston Martin. Then we'll come back to him then. So far so good. Then here comes Dan P2. Dan on the front row of the grid then by 400ths of a second then I should say then to Jenna then. Fantastic stuff indeed then from the Alpine, and back on the front row then where he's familiar with of course then after last season in the Alpine that is as well then for Dan then. Good stuff indeed. Can he rival Jenna for that pole position? Jenna back in the pit lane now, and Astra John I think has just started off a lap as well then, so we'll come back to him too. But there's all sorts of action there. I can't keep up with it, which is no surprise. Then Yumabro back in the pit lane, calling it a day then on those tyres as well. Then ASR then San starting off a lap very soon as well then. No, it's not San, is it? It's somebody else. Nonetheless, we'll never mind. Corey then starting off a lap as well. Then where is his teammate Rocket Lee then also starting a lap then into the final quarter. Then we've got the Red Bull of Dynamo Dan coming back into the pit lane, I think followed by Smithy Almighty as well then. So where is the next Red Bull then, we asked. Maybe it's got Real Ashton on an out lap then as well. Then where are the Hasses? I think coming back into the pit lane. So there's all sorts of action. Then where is Mushroom then? Let's see what Mushroom's up to. It's not medium compound tyres, is Mushroom into Sector 3 then for his first outing around the Jeddah Corniche circuit tonight. What a helmet, Ginger, says Kamara Racer then. I'm not sure if he's insulting him or if he's praising the helmet of the racing suit, that is. But here comes Serious Mushroom then up to the line. Serious Mushroom with a serious P13 at the moment. Then it's 30.3 then on the medium compound tyres as well then. So that is not too shabby indeed then for the Aston Martin driver then. Good stuff for Serious Mushroom then in the Aston Martin, that is. But now got quite a few slower runners then coming back to the pit lane. Luke then has done a 29.6 then on his first outing. He's got a bit of wing damage there on that right end plate as well, it looks like. So had a bit of a touch with the wall, it looks like, somewhere. Here comes Sad as well, then back onto the back straight, heading up to the final corner. Then ERS light flashing away then for the Mercedes driver. He's currently on the third row of the grid. Then can he find a few tenths then to get himself back up the order? Then can he go for pole position here as well? Then we'll find out now. Then he's coming back into the pit lane, actually abandoning his time then on that occasion. Rocket Lee is rocketing around the final couple of corners as well. Then he is currently, he's almost 4 tenths up then. That would put him back on pole position here if he can hold on to that time then in Sector 3. Then let's see what he can do then round the final corner. Then ERS light flashing away, then trying to get all the ounces out of that car then towards the line then for Rocket Lee. Then what's it going to be then? It's pole position for Rocket Lee then at 28.687, puts himself back on top then here in the Jeddah Corniche circuit as well. Then fantastic stuff indeed. Then Dynamo Dan is coming back into pit lane, it looks like there, so he's unfortunately battling his time. Then Rocket Lee then back on pole position, then fantastic stuff indeed. Serious Mushroom then coming back into pits as well. Then Real Ashton Army, then can he improve on P18 currently? Then let's see what we can do then here in the Rebel. Then now up to the line, then he has improved to P16. He's displaced Casey and Umapro down. Then it's a 30.5 then for the Real Ashton then in the Red Bull, I should say. Then Vintage has retired somewhere. He's had a problem somewhere. Unfortunately for Vintage, he's out of the qualifying already. So that's him done and dusted, unfortunately for Vintage, and no lap time set in this qualifying session then for Vintage. Dynamo Dan hit someone on their warm up, says Dynamo Dan. That's what's well, not sure what Dynamo Dan's been up to then. Goodness me, he's been adventurous somewhere on his outlaps then. But as Winnie has retired as well, then goodness me, then a couple of drivers then not having a good time then in qualifying, it seems there. But nonetheless, hopefully they can get themselves woken up for the race itself. Vintage has said evening all then from Vintage as well. Then our star subscriber, star supporter, or whatever you want to call him. He is the GOAT. Then here's the true Geordie. He is Vintage. And blimey, what a fantastic intro that is for Vintage then. I'm going to have to record that and play it every time. But there we go then. So yeah, welcome along, Vintage. But there you go. But Jake the Slayer then unfortunately having to back out of that lap. Then potentially he's got enough time then to come back in and go back out again. And it'll be very tight indeed then. Maybe he's got enough ERS and fuel on board to go again on the next lap straight away then. So we'll wait and see. Rocket Lee yet to come back to the pit lane. I'm not quite sure Rocket Lee's going to have time to get himself, where is he? Goodness me, Rocket Lee is having a great time then trying to escape the clutches of those coming through. But I don't know if he's going to have time to go back round again then, unfortunately for Rocket Lee. Then Styles is back out on circuit as well. Then Jake the Slayer is starting off a new lap then. So Slayer then I think is the first man then on circuit to try and go for another lap in anger here. Let's see what he can do then through the first chicane then. Very nicely done indeed. That Haas there coming out of the pit lane and needs to make sure he can check his mirrors before he gets himself going again. But Slayer is already through then into turn 4 then in sector 1, then flying through then into the next part. Then it's very loopy then is sector 1, then gets a bit more flatter, then a bit more flat out then as well then in sector 2 and sector 3. I think he's touched the wall then as Slayer. He's off the circuit then unfortunately as well then. But he's carrying on going then, so fair enough. So unfortunately he's 3/10 down on his previous time then, so unfortunately for Slayer then not going his way. Then Real Ashton has retired in the pit lane as well then, so unfortunately for Real Ashton, P16 at best then in this qualifying session then. Last to first then for Beast then from Vintage, that is, and for Winnie as well. Then Winnie not qualifying. I think he might have a qualifying ban actually, so maybe that is why. Ginger Age has had a bit of a problem then somewhere in sector 2 then. He is unfortunately, well, maybe he's just harvesting some energy then as well. Jake the Slayer might be able to get himself back round in time then and go again. Then we'll have to wait and see if he's got enough fuel on board, that is. But there we are then heading through. Oh dear, what's going on there? There's a, I thought that was... There's an overtaking McLaren, that is, on a Red Bull then, but I think it's all good then. Just people getting out of the way. Then I can't keep up with the action around here. It's fantastic. Luke then starting off his final lap. Then I think we've had somebody else then a racing ball of Ginger Rage starting off a lap as well. Then into turn 1. Then yes for the pink helmet then as well as we go through then into turn 2 as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed. We've got a few more out laps then. Oh no, we haven't. We've got Smithy and Wedgie starting off a lap as well. Then we've got all sorts of action then. We've only got 30 seconds left to qualify, guys. Keep your hats on. Then Astra John jumps up to P5 then with a 29.1. Then brilliant stuff indeed from the McLaren driver. Then onto the third row of the grid then for the McLaren. Brilliant stuff from him as well. Then we've got Dan starting off a lap. Then Rocket Lee will not get himself round the circuit in time then, unfortunately then for Rocket Lee. Then he's going to be not quite sure where he came out, to be fair. He's definitely not got enough time to get himself to the line then to start off another lap. Then Decanco then has jumped up to P5 then, 29.0 then from the Ferrari. Then fantastic stuff indeed from Decanco. So far so good then in qualifying. Goodness me, he's gone a bit deep there, but he's got himself P5 then as it stands. Then Rocket Lee is done and dusted in qualifying here as well, and that will be him sorted then, as we got another Ferrari then of Casey Jennett. Then Casey coming up to the line then unfortunately hasn't validated his time, which is a big shame then, because he was going to improve then quite substantially then up into a 29.5, which would have put him in the top 10 as well. Then we've got Williams then, we've got Jinner pole position then with a 28.5. Goodness me, I completely missed it, but Corey then P10, but Jinner then takes pole position away from Rocket Lee then on the final lap as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed. Then wearing the Haas pair, then here comes Mr. Elite then. No, it's Hungry Styles in the pit lane then abandoning his time. Then Luke up into P3 then for the Kick Sauber team then, 28.7 from him. What's happening for Ginger Age? And Ginger Age P12 I think there in the Racing Bull. Then good stuff indeed, improving to the 29.8 then for the Racing Bull team. Then good stuff indeed. Where is Smithy? Smithy improves to P12. Unfortunately, displaces Ginger Rage down a place then as well. Then Mushroom up into P15, I should say. Then here comes San as well. Then San, P9 for the Mercedes. Then splitting the Haas pair once again. Then to Kanka coming back through. Then Dan has invalidated his time. Then somewhere in the first couple of sectors. Then I think that might be it. Done and dusted here in qualifying. Astrodron back in the pit lane. Then Umabro back in the pit lane as well. Then goodness me, it's Jinner on pole position then for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And what a fantastic lap indeed then from the McLaren. I'm sure he's very happy with that one indeed. Then a 38551 then to set the top of the order then for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix coming up in just a jiffy. Then Rocket Lee on the front row in P2. Then Luke then of course the championship leader in P3. That had a difficult time in qualifying in the last 2 rounds to be fair, but has now got himself up in the higher echelons then of qualifying then as well. Then Dan of course last season's 3rd place then in the drivers championship that is, but he's got himself on the second row of the grid then in P4, and Dynamo Dan then P5, his former teammate as well, then looking good indeed for Red Bull. Then Dukanko then with a fantastic performance in qualifying. I say my best performance in qualifying goes to Dukanko. Then P6 then for the Ferrari driver as well. Then fantastic stuff indeed. Right behind Sean then, goodness me, that's not where you want to be then, Real Ashton. Goodness me, that's dangerous stuff indeed as well. Messed up every lap then, some compliments, then spoke too soon. W from Vintage then says Beast as well. Then as Beast is gifted, Vintage is gifted a membership. Then thank you very much, Vintage. You're a star. And 10 months member then says for Vintage, let's go bronze. Then I'll be far behind you, Ashton, in the race. Well, I can't drive here, says Ginger Rage. Then so that's that sorted. So Jin then pole position. Then Rocket Lee P2, Luke in P3, Dan P4, Dynamo Dan in P5, Dukanko then a fantastic performance in P6, Astrodron P7, then Hungry Stars P8, then San then in P9, and Mr. Elite rounds off the top 10 for the Haas team. Corey Brennan then P11, then Smithy P12, Ginger Rage P13, Slayer then P14, then Mushroom P15 on the medium compound tyres, Real Ashton, we had somebody else, and then we had Winnie and Vintage, who didn't get a lap time on the board then, unfortunately, in qualifying here. But there we go then, we've got the grid set now, we've got the race to unfold in Saudi Arabia then, coming up now in just a jiffy. We'll get a quick word from our lovely sponsors in that case, because we're waiting for the grid to be sorted. We'll be back in 2 seconds. Right then, here we go then for the start of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We've got the lineup then sorted, but wow, we've got quite a stark contrast from 3 people in terms of strategy. Then everybody else opting for the medium compound tyre. That's Jenner all the way down to Mr. Elite in P10. So the top 10 all going for the medium compound here at the start of this race, and for the first stint of this race, I should say. And then we've got the hard compound tyre runners, then Corey Brennan, then P11, then is the highest of the hard runners, that is. Umabro then in P18, and Winnie have opted for the hard compound tyre as well then here in this first stint, that is. Of course, there's going to be 25 laps of action here in Saudi Arabia then, coming from bronze tonight. Looking forward to seeing how it's going to unfold here as well. Then it's going to be an action-packed Grand Prix, as it usually is around Jeddah. But yes, we will see how it goes. But looking forward to this one, as the drivers then get themselves sorted then to warm up the tyres, then get themselves all ready then for the start of the Grand Prix. Medium to hard is the one-stop strategy, then soft, medium, hard then for some reason is the two-stop strategy. Then there's a siren of support going past my window as the drivers get themselves sorted and settled in then for the start of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And Serious Mushroom has said, remember, 14 goes into 1. So I think he's planning on the 14 drivers ahead of him going into turn 1 altogether and causing a bit of a kerfuffle potentially. And Mushroom then flying through then to take the lead. Of course, he won in China then 2 rounds ago, then 2 weeks ago now. And let's see if he can repeat the feat then from P15 tonight. Then that would be pretty impressive stuff indeed around this circuit. But anything can happen then as we go through into the final stages of the lap then to get ourselves all set then to start off this Grand Prix here in Jeddah as well then. And Jinnah then is going to be taking us away then from pole position. I need to get the position changes up as well, don't I? To see what everyone's doing in the first lap or so then as we get ourselves lined up on the grid then for the start of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Just waiting for all 20 drivers to get themselves parked up in their grid slots as well then. Unfortunately, Dan has had a bit of an issue. But, I don't want to name and shame, but I've named and shamed already, so it's too late now. But there we go. Right then, onto the grid we go. Then there's a Mercedes having a bit of a parking error, I think, there. But hopefully can get themselves sorted. And there we are then. Vintage then lining up on the back of the grid then in P20. Then we can get ourselves ready to get going here for the 5 red lights now. And hopefully they will all come on momentarily. And there they are, right then. 4, 3, 4, 5 red lights here on in Jeddah then. The 5 red lights are out then, and away we go then. A good start indeed then for some then, but I think a few have struggled then as Rocket Lee, goodness me, the back end stepping out then as well, trying to get the traction down, and Luke going around the outside into turn 2 has got the inside now, and I think has stolen away that P2 position away from Rocket Lee as we head into the first sector for the first time then. I think everyone's got themselves through unscathed, but Dukanko's had a horrible start then. He's down 6 places. What the hell's going on there? My goodness. Sands dropped down to P10 as well. Then there's all sorts of action. Then, goodness me, Ginger Age is fighting then in a racing ball then into sector 1. Then, my God, that's not an overtaking place there, sir. My goodness me, action-packed indeed then. Serious Mushroom has lost 4 places as well. Then, goodness me, Dukanko then and Serious Mushroom, the biggest losers, unfortunately, in the opening lap so far. But fingers crossed they can get themselves back in this race then, as we got Casey and Jake the Slayer, and Real Ashton is involved in this as well. Then, my goodness me, as we head through into sector 2, keep it calm, lads, keep it calm. Then as we go through into sector 2, then this is where you don't want to go side by side through here. It is definitely a single file part of the circuit. Then heading on to this straight, then goodness me, when you're clearing the wall, then heading on to sector 2 as well. Then my goodness me, Casey has been passed, Dukanko, sorry, has been passed by his teammate of Casey. Then goodness me, Dukanko is struggling out there. He's down 8 places. Has he got damage then on that car? I'm not quite sure. Then heading into sector 3 then, but Dukanko is really struggling out there. Unfortunately then, after a fantastic qualifying, it's not gone his way in the opening lap here, and it doesn't look like he's got damage then as well then for that Ferrari. Then we'll have to come back to that then as well. Then out in the lead then, Rocket Lee has lost out to Luke. Then Jinnah then holds on to the lead then onto lap 2 then, but here comes Luke then on the charge. Then we've got more movers and shakers into the final couple of corners. Then Rocket Lee is looking to try and mount a charge as well then for that P2 position as well then, but Luke then looking to go around the outside, not quite then, he's too far back then into the first chicane. Then both the McLaren, Kick Sauber and Williams, filtering through. Then Dan stay where he was then in P4. Then Astrodrom's up 2 places, then he's gained 2 places then for P7. Then brilliant stuff indeed from the McLaren. Goodness me. I'm losing my voice already then, as we're only on lap 2 now. Done with Dan P6, then he's lost the place then to Astrodrom. Then Hungry Styles up the place, then so has Mr. Elite up 2. Both the Hasses gaining on the opening lap then as well. Then good stuff indeed. Then San has dropped down a place, then I think, no, he's not, he stayed where he is. Corey's up into the top 10, then Ginger Age has gained 2 places. We've got yellow flags for Real Ashton, who's had an issue somewhere at the back of the order. No, we haven't got it. It's a Mercedes, I think, of Umabra, who's had an issue somewhere because he's now lost off the pack. No, he's lost the pack then by 2.5 seconds then to Winnie then in P15. Then goodness me, trying to get himself back underway then is the Mercedes, I should say then, but the Racing Bull of Jake the Slayer has lost out 3 places as well. I'm not quite sure if he was involved somewhere as well. Serious Mushroom has dropped down to P18 as well. Then goodness me, Vintage and up into P19, but Real Ashton then is trying to hold on to the pack now. He's got himself back up and caught up to speed, I should say. Then Serious Mushroom going past Slayer then for that P17 position. Then he's got himself through then, but now he's got Umabro as his next target as well. Then out in front, where is the battle? Then DRS now available as we go through. Then it's getting a bit misty over here. Goodness me, there's yellow flags somewhere as well. They go, oh my God, it's 3 wide into the final corner then for the McLarens, for the race leaders, I should say. Then goodness me, it's close indeed then, but they managed to get themselves through there unscathed, which is brilliant stuff indeed, to be fair. Luke then on the charge. Then Dan Dan's at the fastest lap of the race. Then Dan Dan is on a charge as well. Then Luke then going for P1. Then he's taken the lead of the Grand Prix. Then into the first turn. Then on lap 3. Then he's taken the lead. Then has the kick salver. Then up into P1 now for the Green Machine. Rocket Lee then, Jinder then down to P2. Rocket Lee then staying in P3. Then Dan Dan now all over the back as well. Then into turn 4 we go. Then Astra John. Then Dynamo Dan, Siles and Mr. Elite sticking with them as well. Then Jake the Slayer's got a 10-second moment of spinning in the pit lane. Unfortunately for Slayer, we're not quite sure what's happened to him there, but has he got damage then on that racing ball? Then into the pits he goes, and yes, it is a wing change there as well then for Jake the Slayer. Unfortunately, then he's going off the hard Pantara and back and away. Then Dynamo Dan has got himself past Astra John, then into the hairpin. Oh, he's done it. Yeah, just about then. Oh, goodness me, he's opened the door though for the McLaren. Then can he get himself back through then? Not quite. So Dynamo Dan back over the P5 now, from where he started, of course, but we'll have to wait and see then if he can hold on to it then, or if he can go further forward. Then we'll have to find out now. We'll find out in the next few laps or so. Stay tuned. That is terrible racecraft, says Formula Moments. Oh dear, he is not happy out there then, unfortunately then, but there we go. Terrible racecraft happens all over the place, doesn't it? We've got Smithy then going through, passing Corey. Then Smithy now up into the top 10. Of course, he's looking to try and keep Kick Sauber's title fight alive for the constructors, that is, but so far so good then. Luke, of course, leading the way. Then it's going to get some maximum points then for the race win. As it stands, we're only on lap 3, so there's plenty of laps to go still. So Rocket Lee, Jinder, then Dan, Dynamo Dan, Astra John. To be fair, anybody could still win this Grand Prix as it stands as well then, so it's not all done and dusted just yet. Then Jinder then into the attack. Then goodness me, he's switching his lanes very late there as well. Then Mr. Elite got the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Good stuff indeed, brilliant stuff indeed, I should say then. But Jinder takes back the lead then into the first chicane and back into P1 then for Jinder then, of course, who started on P1 as well. Then Rocket Lee then had a bit of a difficult time off the line then as well, didn't he? Those wheels are spinning up then for the Williams driver then, as we got Corey having an issue. Then I think Corey's lost out then as well. Then Smithy has been passed by Casey as well. Then Casey and Smithy, no sorry, not Smithy and Corey seem to have had an issue somewhere then, because they've both lost out. Then Rocket Lee's got a 3-second penalty, the first penalty of the evening then as well. Then discounting Jake the Slayer's penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which could be served then if he does choose to come into the pits again. There we go then. Ginger Rage is now 3 seconds away. Then he's into the top 10. There's Ginger Rage. Somehow, I'm not quite sure what happened to Smithy then, but Smithy seemed to cause a bit of a dilemma then for the rest of the field. Then Casey has passed the racing bull then into P10. Then is Casey now up into the top 10 now for the Ferrari team. Then Ducanco then, of course, is unfortunately the biggest loser in the opening laps then as well. Then after a fantastic qualifying, then has dropped down to P13, but looking to get himself back in the hunt then for the Ferrari team as well. Then so we'll see what comes out of that then in the next few laps or so. Then of course the pit stop strategies, then we'll switch on to the tyre situation then, because medium compound tyres for the top 13 as we go through then. Oh my goodness me, look at this then. It is getting close indeed. Dynamo Dan's going down the inside then. Oh my god, there's a gap there slightly then, as Rocket Lee trying to go for it on Luke as well. Then Dynamo Dan trying to get himself past his former teammate Dan, as the Dans are battling away then as well. Then heading onto the main straight, then onto lap 5 and down towards turn 1. Then is it going to get close? Indeed, it is going to get very close indeed. Luke and Jinder then, oh my god, battling away then for the lead of the Grand Prix. Then Luke's gone around the outside, he's got the move, then he's got the lead of the Grand Prix as well. Then Rocket Lee stays P3, Dan P4. Then he's got himself, he stayed ahead of Dynamo Dan for the time being. Oh my god, there's a wall there and Dynamo Dan's clouted it, and Astra John almost into the back of him as well then, and now Styles and Mr. Elite. Oh my goodness me, then work together, boys. Oh, it's getting close indeed into sector 1, and Sam then almost into the back of them as well. Oh my goodness, Astra John's gone wide then. Ducanco's got a penalty as well, then going through sector 1 as well. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. Then Ginger Rage has dropped down behind the Ferraris as well then, in the racing ball, that is, as Corey tries to get himself back in the fight as well then on the hard compound tyre, of course. So the tyre strategies will come towards Corey, Winnie, to Umabra, and of course back in the favour of Jake the Slayer potentially as well then. So the hard compound tyre is probably the better tyre around here in terms of longevity and in terms of speed over the stint as well. Then I would have to hazard a guess then, but I don't know anything. But there we go. Rocket Lee's got himself past Jinder. Then he's just within DRS range of the race leader of Luke. Then can he hold on to that DRS range is going to be the important part, and yes he can then onto the back straight then as well then. So that's good news then for Rocket Lee at least then. But here comes Dynamo Dan once again on the charge then on his former teammate of Dan, and he is going for it. He doesn't want to wait around then, does Dynamo Dan. Then he's going to go around the outside. Is he into the final corner? Is there going to be some space there for him? Yes, there is. Good respect then between the Dans as well. Then Ginger Rage and Corey are battling away. Then goodness me. Oh, there's a problem then for Smithy. Then Smithy's had an issue with it at the final corner. Then he's trying to get himself back underway then, but he's lost out then. And I'm not quite sure if there was a helping hand then for Smithy then. But my goodness me, he's been sent into into a spin then as Dynamo Dan and Dan Dan again battling away then through the first couple of corners, and Dan Dan is back through then at turn 4, and now Astra John then is trying to stick his nose in there as well. Thank God that's not an overtaking position, I don't think, there as well, and oh goodness me, that was close. That could have been dangerous indeed then, but Dan Dan has lost out to the top 3 now. That's going to be problematic indeed. There's no DRS then for the Alpine as it stands then, unless he can get himself that 0.3 of a second and get himself back in the window, but I think the top 3 are trying to scatter off into the scamper off into the distance now. Ginner then all over the back, then he's almost gone squirrely, then he's got a bit of a contact I think between him on the back of that Williams car, then heading through into sector 2. Has Rocket Lee got damage there? I think he has. No, he seems to be all right then. That's good stuff indeed. Maybe I'm not quite sure. No, I think he seems to be all right then. That's all right. That's good. Good stuff indeed. Ignore me, I don't know what I'm talking about. Dan Dan, unfortunately, not in within DRS then. Rocket Lee has been passed by Ginner then. Oh dear, Rocket Lee is having a bit of a connection problem there, it looks like. Oh god, I'm hoping that's just Rocket Lee's internet, or potentially it's even my internet, because that would be more preferable, because I don't want the drivers to be having too many issues. They're looking to be having an issue now into the final corner. Then Ginner's gone down the inside of Luke as well, then heading around that final corner. Then it looks like Rocket Lee has just about got himself out of the back of that, though, because he could have been going flying into the back of the McLaren there. DeCanco has passed Ginger Rage. We've got to go back to the lead. Sorry, goodness me, I've missed out on it already. Heading up to the first turn, then into lap 7 now, and Ginner has taken the lead. Then Luke then stays P2, or can Rocket League go on the outside here? He might be able to now. Let's see. That's going to be close indeed, but I think Luke has held on to it for the time being. Then DeCanco's had an issue, and DeCanco has lost the left end plate, lost both end plates actually, unfortunately for DeCanco. He's into the pit lane now then for the Ferrari team to try and get that sorted and serviced as quickly as possible then. Out in the lead, then we've got, like I said, penalties then racking up. Then we've got Casey with the penalty as well. Then we've got a problem then. Another problem is a Mercedes. It's Sands. Sands had an issue then in sector 1. Then he's off the circuit there, trying to get himself back on as well. Then my goodness me, then Sands having an issue then as Corey picks up a 3-second penalty as well. Then goodness me, penalties rolling in now here on lap 7 as well, then flying through. And this is, well, it's going to get a bit problematic in terms of the penalties, isn't it? Especially if it carries on this way. But that is the nature then of going through this first sector, at least, then, especially as the breakneck speeds that these guys are going through. Of course, if you get it slightly wrong then on the angle, then you can get yourself outside of track limits then just by a millimetre or 2. Now into sector 3 we go then. Rocket Lee then on the charge once again then, trying to get himself back past Luke then into the P2 position. Then Dan is caught up, as has Dynamo Dan, as has the McLaren of Astra John, then as has the Haas pair then of Mr. Elite and Hungry Styles. Oh dearie me, that was going to get dicey indeed. Oh, I thought Dan was going to put his nose in there as well then, but he thought better of it. Then there's Luke. Oh god, my dearie me, what was that? Out of the final quarter then, getting on the power then is a bit of a problem as well. It seems like Dan's on the charge, and Dan takes P3, and Luke and Ginner then, oh my god, Rocket League diving down the inside there, and thankfully got himself out of the way then as Ginner and Luke, goodness me, on the traction, having a few struggles I think on these medium compound tyres already then as we go through side by side, and whoa, that was dangerous stuff indeed then, but they've managed to get themselves through unscathed. Then into the pits comes Sam and Corey as well. Then Corey's into the pit lane as well from the hard compound tyre. Then that's going to be quite a bit of a stint then for Corey Brennan, but maybe getting himself out of the way then of the pack then of the action there, and getting himself a bit of clean air as well then. So oh no, he's got wing damage there. Unfortunately, that's not been sorted then in the pit lane. Then San is also pit then for the hard compound tyres. Then DeCanco and Jake the Slayer then catching up to him as well. Then as we go down, oh, we got DeCanco then back in the pit lane. Then oh dear, it didn't service DeCanco's pit stop either. Then unfortunately, you do need to make sure you do. We've got problems then as well. Then more problems as well. Then Dynamo Dan. No, it's not Dynamo Dan. I don't think, but it's a Red Bull then of Ashton. I think having a few issues trying to get himself sorted. He has done as well then, but yes, right. Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, if you get yourself a bit of damage and don't get your wing change in the MFD, then it can not change your front wing in the pit stops, unfortunately, which is a bit problematic. But there you go. Ginner then on the inside into the final corner. Then can he make the move? Then no, he's I think thinking about it, but he's not quite gone for it. Then so maybe we'll go for the move then in towards turn 1. Then flying down the main straight. Then here comes the McLaren. Then trying to switch lanes once again. Then but he just needs to pick one and go for it. He's got the DRS then open. Then as we go in towards turn 1, then he holds the lead I should say, then onto lap 9 as we go through. Then Rocket Lee and Astra John then are battling away. Then Rocket Lee down to P5. Then Real Ashton's picked up a 3-second penalty. Then Ginger Age is in the pit lane as well. They're calling it a day on the medium compound tyres. So maybe we're seeing the crossover point now then start to come into fruition now for the hard compound tyres. And Winnie then is the highest runner on the hard compound tyres as well. Oh dear, Gingerage, I think, oh no, it's Rocket League counting the wall slightly then, but hopefully his wing is A-OK. We'll have to find out then with a better view then in the next few corners or so then. But there we are then. As we go through, then Ginger Ranger picked up a 3-second motor coming out of the pit lane there, which is quite odd, but nonetheless, we go through the hairpin then of Sector 2. I think that front wing is all okay for Rocket Lee, so he should be able to just crack on then as he is then, as the top of the order then are very close together, then the top 8 are very close together indeed then, as Real Ashton is in the pit lane then to service that Red Bull. Unfortunately, he might have had a wing change as well then for the Red Bull team, which is a big shame indeed. Then Kanko then is back on medium compound tyres and back underway then, but unfortunately not in the best of ways then as it stands in this Grand Prix, but there's still time, then there's still laps to go, then we're not at halfway just yet, but we've been flying through this Grand Prix. Needless to say then, it's been absolutely brilliant stuff indeed, especially in the top of the order then, absolutely brilliant stuff. Evening Dylan then, Dylan has said evening as well then, evening from Beast and evening from Kamara Racer. Then what a cracking race then as well then, says Kamara Racer, of course part of a cracking race then in Miami last night as well then. Into the pits comes Dan then, the first of the leaders then to call it a day on the medium compound tyres. Going for an undercut here then is Dan. Then we've got to change for the leaders. Luke takes the lead of the Grand Prix away from Jenna then once again. Then these two carry on their fight. Then Dynamo Dan now up into the podium places. Rocket Lee P4, Astrodron P5, Hungry Stars P6 and Mr. Elite then in P7, but Mr. Elite is dropped off the back then at this stage, unfortunately for him. Then where is Dan going to come out then, as in respect to the rest of the order? It's going to be close with his teammate, I think then, but of course the pit exit then comes out at turn 2, doesn't it, not turn 1 then, so I think he's got himself ahead of his teammate there and can cruise on into the distance. Then there's a bit of a gap there forming. Smithy White has got a 5-second gap then to the top 10 then, but of course in bronze the top 15 do the score, and Dynamo Dan and Rocket Lee, oh dear, Dynamo Dan's gone very deep then, and Rocket Lee has snuck through then, through the inside then, up into P3 then, and has got the roof done and dusted. Then good stuff indeed from Rocket Lee then, has got himself through there, but the ERS light flashing away. There's going to be an enticing little button then for Dynamo Dan to try and get himself back through and potentially go for that P3 position again then. But Dynamo Dan and Rocket Lee now within the DRS, then the leaders have changed hands as well. Once again, Jinner has taken the lead of the Grand Prix as we head through into Sector 3 momentarily. Then there they are, then flying through then Rocket Lee with momentum, then brilliant momentum indeed then. And Luke, oh my goodness, we went to the back of him. That's how slow Luke was going and how quick quick Rocket Lee was going, sorry. Rocket Lee then up into P2, is rocketed up into P2 then from that move as well then. Oh my, oh there's contact there. And round the outside we go then. Oh my, there's even more contact as well then. I'm not quite sure if they're pitting or if they're just what is going on then, as Luke has called it a day then on the medium compound tyres. The top 4 carrying on then, Mr. Elite carrying on as well then. Hungry Styles is also in the pit lane as well then, so where will they come out then in respect to Dan? Of course, Dan was in the lead pack then, he was fighting for the podiums. Let's see what is going to happen then. Dan is within DRS then of Smithy Almighty as we go down towards turn 1 here, and he's not really close enough to make a move then, I don't think. But where is the rest of the field then? Luke coming out of the pit lane now, then Dan is coming through turn 2, then Luke is coming out and just behind the Alpine, and maybe Smithy Almighty has done a bit of a favour then for Luke then, because Luke of course is, Smithy sorry, is holding up Dan as well, then heading into Sector 1 as well. Then Luke has got 1 lap fresher tyres than Dan I should say then, but of course the kick Saubers may be working together then to try and hold up the Alpine for the time being, that is, but I'm not sure how long it's going to last then, because of course Smithy's on much older medium compound tyres then compared to Dan on fresh hard compound tyres as well. Styles then has had an issue coming out of the pit lane again then, so we saw him fighting then in Japan then last week for a potential podium then, and he did get a podium in the end then, but unfortunately he could have been a bit closer then to maybe even a race win then last week, but he seems to have had the same issue coming out of the pit lane again, has Styles then, goodness me. Oh dear, Smithy's had an issue then coming out of Sector 2 into Sector 2 I should say, then he's spun the car, trying to get that car corrected, and he's definitely got damage in on that left end plate as well then, but it's taken a while then for the kick Sauber to try and get himself sorted. Then you've already got wing damage, so you can just take some more wing damage and get yourself going again. Unfortunately for Smithy, that's down to P15 then, and yet to pit as well. Then those medium compound tyres I think giving up then on the kick Sauber. Then unfortunately then we've got more pit stop action then in the background. Then we've got Astrodron into the pits as well. Then here comes the top 3, and it's Dynamo Dan diving down the inside then on Jinner. My goodness me, then where are they? Who's going where then? Rocket Lee with the undercut, or the cutback, I should say, the switchback then, I should say. And can he hold on then? I think he can then. Yes, he has done. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Wow, that was fantastic stuff indeed as well. Then Astrodron then out of the pits is going to be behind Styles then. Mr. Elite coming out of the pit lane as well. Then, of course, they've got fresher tyres. Then I think Mr. Elite's got wing damage in on that left end plate, which wasn't sorted in the pit stop phase. It definitely wasn't sorted because that car is squirrely as hell. Or that's not really a racing tow, is it? But it's squirrely. But Smithy's in the pits as well. Then unfortunately for Smithy, then that incident then in sector 2 has been costly indeed. Then that 2-second gap for Styles then has been costly as well. Then he has lost out to 2 seconds to Dan and to Luke as well. Then now Luke and Dan technically net race leaders, I would imagine, roughly as it stands then. But of course these trio at the top then, of course Winnie as well then have yet to pit then in this Grand Prix. 12 laps have been completed very shortly indeed, or very soon indeed, as we go into sector 3 then for the 12th time. Casey has got himself past Umabro. Then Casey then I think seems to be some there's no damage then for him. Did Umabro have some end plate damage as well? Then no, it seems to be all good as well. Then good stuff indeed. But Umabro I don't think is yet to pit then in this Grand Prix so far. Then out in the lead when we've got Rocket League taking the lead of the Grand Prix then into the final quarter. Then Gina almost looking a bit lost for wears then in that final quarter, in the braking zone that is. But nonetheless then as we go into the pits then Rocket League calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. Gina takes the lead. Then Dynamo Dan stays out as well then, and on to lap 13 we go. So Rocket League calling it a day now on the medium compound tyres. Where will he come out then in respect to the rest of the order? So far it has been brilliant stuff indeed. I don't want to jinx it, but I probably have. But Rocket League then coming out of the pit lane now will be in pretty good contention, I think, here. As we've got Dan and Luke then switching places into the first turn. Then Rocket League coming out of the pit lane now. Where will he be in respect to Hungry Styles and Astrodron? Then it's going to be close indeed. He's ahead of the McLaren, but he's behind Styles there. Just about, that is. But of course has got the much fresher tyres then. 2-lap younger tyres then than the rest of the field ahead of him as well then. So that is going to be quite good indeed. Oh my god, then us Rocket League, then us Astrodron is just trying to go through him as well then. My god. And they're going to go side by side. I can't see what's going on then. And Rocket League holds on. Rocket League holds on then just about then. But my goodness me, then Astrodron was not going to take any prisoners there, was he? He was just going to go for it and go through him. But yeah, it didn't work out in the end then. But Rocket League holds on to P7 for the time being. Good stuff indeed. Right then, the top 2 yet to pit from the medium compound tyres then in this Grand Prix. Then Dynamo Dan almost pushing Jenna through into sector 3. And now we go then as we've got Winnie then, who of course is a bit of no man's land for Winnie because he's yet to pit on from the hard compound tyres that he started on onto a different set of tyres as well. Then Dynamo Dan then taking the lead of the Grand Prix. Once again, it's very misty in that part of the circuit as we go into the final corner now. Will they come into the pit lane this time though, or will they just crack on then and see what they can do then on the on another tyre then in the next stint? Then Dynamo Dan is cracking on as well. So is Jenna as well then. So they're just sticking it out then in this race. Maybe waiting for a safety car potentially then. But there we go then into the first turn. Then the battling is not going to help either of them. Then trying to keep the gap then to the rest of the field there. But there we are then. Luke now trying to charge on with Dan. Of course these two then are in net position then. Lead of the race I think as it stands then. So Dan is on the cards then for another victory as well then. Sorry, not another result I should say. Then we've got more problems then between what's happened there. Sans had an issue at the final corner. Then goodness me, then Mr. Elite then and Mr. Elite then. Oh my god, there's problems then. Mr. Elite and Astrodron. Rocket Lee has been spun around then as well then. And what's happened there then to Rocket Lee then? He seemed to be, I think he was collected then by the McLaren it seemed then. And my dear, that might be reviewed. And after the race, then Rocket League needs to get his head down then and get himself back underway then, because he's still going to be within the points paying positions when there's pit stops then for the rest of the field. And of course, those for the rest of the field as well. Then his teammate right behind him, of course, is on older medium compound tyres. Then of course is on a bit of a different strategy, I think, as well as Corey. So maybe they can work together now to try and get themselves back up to speed then in the Williams team. But unfortunately for Sam, I think he had an issue as well then at the final quarter. Then I'm not quite sure if he's got damage then or not. We can't quite tell. But Rocket League then has let his teammate go through then. Rocket League, just get your head down and keep going then. If you can hear me, then that'd be good stuff indeed. Dynamo Dan then is leading the Grand Prix then, lap 14 then of 25. There's still quite a few laps to go in this race then, to be fair. 11 laps to go then at the end of this one. Then will they come into the pit lane this time? It seems like they might be staying out once again then. Dynamo Dan dives into the pits then, so Dynamo Dan calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. Will he go to the soft compound tyre, or will he go onto the hard compound tyre with 10 laps to go at the end of this one as well then? Equaz has said wowzers indeed then, and Equaz said, sorry, Itchy has said Equaz indeed, so good stuff. Right then, hard compound tyres for Dynamo Dan, where Where are his rivals, though? Luke then goes through, then P3 then for Dan. Styles then up into P4 now, I think, on the charge. I'm not quite sure what the gap is. It's still 2 seconds then to Dan. Dynamo Dan coming out the pit lane then into P5. Then Astra John then with that incident then with Rocket Lee has had some issues then, let's just say. Winnie is in the pit lane calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres. He's down to P13, then he's on to medium compound tyres. Then it will be pretty quick indeed for the final stint, I imagine. So let's see what he can do then. Not Rocket Lee. Ginger Age is putting the pressure on Mushroom then for that P11 position as well. Rocket Lee then sticking with his teammate then for the time being through sector 1 then, still running pretty well in the points paying positions then. Like I said, there's still stops to come then for Jinner, and we'll have to wait and see then how far he can get himself back up the order then, but so far so good then. He's recovering nicely indeed at this stage. Dan then is on the charge as well then. Dan putting the pressure on Luke then for that P2 position as it stands, as we head through into sector 2 then as well then for lap 15. Then 10 laps to go then at the end of this one then. We haven't well, I don't want to say it because we might curse it then, but there we go then. OG's above indeed, says quite as well then. Sui as well. Sui, I love Sui. Yes, that's all I can say. But good stuff indeed. And there we go then. A bit of a gap form, well, quite a few gaps forming now as it stands. Then Jinner is in the pit lane, then Jinner calling it a day. Then 1 lap later than Dynamo Dan. Then so where will he come out in respect to that Red Bull? Astra John is just about caught up to the DRS then of the Red Bull of Dynamo Dan. Soft compound tyres going on for Jinner's car then. So this is going to be a very mixed strategy then for the McLaren. Then where is he going to come out in respect to the rest of the field is the question. As Dynamo Dan, then Astra John and Mr. Elite will fly through then, and they will be ahead, I think, then of the McLaren. Then let's see where he is going to be when he comes out the pit lane. There's contact there. You can't drive into people if you're coming out the pit lane. You are the one who needs to make sure you get yourself sorted and back on the track safely then. But there we go then. Jinner on the soft compound tyres is going to be all over the back of Mr. Elite. They're going through sector 1 then, but unfortunately not quite a overtaking position at this point of the circuit. Let's see if he can use those soft compound tyres to his advantage then in the next few corners or so then. But yes, it's going to be interesting stuff indeed to see what Jinner can do then. Is he going to go diving down the inside? Not quite then. Mr. Elite covers that off then, but for the time being that is, as we go through then onto lap 16 now. Brilliant stuff indeed. Then the top 2 leading the way then. They pitted earlier than the rest of the field. Then Mr. Elite has been passed by Jinner then into sector 2. A bit of an unconventional place to pass, but he's got himself past nonetheless then on those soft compound tyres. Then Dan and Luke then lead the way by 2.3 seconds then to Styles. Then 2 seconds further back is Dynamo Dan then in P3. Jinner Range pick up a 3-second bonus then. Astra John is just outside of that DRS range, but Jinner now is on the attack then in the other McLaren. We've got a penalty there. Oh my god, Astra John has almost lost the car then, and he's got himself back in the way then, maybe putting him under pressure then from Jinner then, his teammate, but his teammate's gone through then as well then. Goodness me. That was close, but well done, well held I should say from Astra John. Very well done indeed there. Dylan said softs will die off at the end of the race, says Dylan as well then. So I think he knows something a bit more than I do, but softs will die off at the end of the race then. But Jinner then is going to be under pressure once again from Astra John in this case. He couldn't get himself within DRS then of Dynamo Dan. Oh my god, that's a dive and a half then from Astra John. Then I don't think he wants any team orders then. There is definitely no papaya rules in this one, but yeah, that was late and whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think Jinner might have had his heart in his mouth on that one when he saw those arrows get a bit closer than in his rear view mirror, or in his wing mirror as that is. But there we go then, heading through into sector 2 now then, and Jinner then is back within DRS then of the Red Bull of Dynamo Dan then for that P4 position then. Jinner needs to make sure those soft compound tyres do hold on as well then, as long as they can, because of course he's got to get himself to the end of lap 25 then on these soft compound tyres as well. But as it stands then, it's going to be a bit of a struggle I think, as Dylan has said then in the comment section then, towards the end of the stint. So we'll find out what's going to be going on. But Jinner's got himself past Dynamo Dan first then for that P4 position, and maybe get himself 2 seconds up the road then to get himself past Styles for a podium position. Now Styles back in the podium positions here and looking pretty good indeed. Jinner's gone purple in sector 2 then. I think he's going to be using some DRS then to try and get himself past the Red Bull of Dynamo Dan very quickly indeed on those soft compound tyres, and potentially we might see a faster slap then from the McLaren driver as well. Let's see what he can do then into the final turn then. The ERS light flashing away then. We've got a problem then for a Mercedes then. It's a Mercedes I think of Sam then. Sam's having an issue then, or maybe it's your Mabra. No, it's Sam unfortunately in sector 2 then, hoping to get himself back on the way then, as Jinner has not got himself past, but Jinner's got the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Oh my god, then that is late from both drivers there, isn't it? But I think Jinner's got himself through on the soft compound tyres. Mr. Elite got himself past Astra John then as well then on the into P6 I should say then for the Haas. He's still got that damage. I think he's definitely got some left end plate damage then, has Mr. Elite. Yes, he has. but he's doing a good job then still with that damage as well then. Jake the Slayer and Umabro then switching places as well. We're going through into, I think Jake the Slayer just picked up a damage then. That's why he's let the Mercedes go through there. Unfortunately there for Jake the Slayer, he's not having a good time here in Jeddah, but he didn't want Jeddah, of course, did he? He did say in the comment section that he didn't like the circuit, and unfortunately it is coming to the truth then for Jake Slayer, that is. Dynamo Dan, oh, he can't. I thought he was going to stay within DRS range of Jinnah then and maybe pull himself along then into potentially a podium contention then later on in this race then. Of course, there's still quite a few laps to go then in this Grand Prix. 7 laps to go then at the end of this one as well then, so we're not done and dusted just yet then here in Jeddah. Of course, there's still plenty of action to unfold heading into sector 3 then on lap 18. Then the top 2 then stretching their legs then. They're not actually stretching their legs, to be fair. They're actually well, it's quite steady then with Styles, and Styles currently in P3 once again then. We've seen this already then in Japan last week. It's roles reverse. It's history repeating itself actually. But Winnie then up into P12 then, passing Ginger Rage then into sector 3 we go then, flying through there. Winnie has got himself within DRS range of his teammate as well here, but Mushroom is trying to keep himself up with the contention for a points paying position. Well, no, sorry, the top 10 is top 15 who score in bronze, of course then, so the points paying positions are down to P15 where San is. Dan has taken the lead of the Grand Prix then for the first time then into P1 on to lap 19 as well. We go through and flying through then. Jinnah has got himself caught up with Hungry Styles again now, and Mishkali has been passed by Astrodron, goodness me. Corey's back in the pit lane, so Corey is calling it a day. He's done 11 laps on the medium compound tyres and has decided he's got more damage unfortunately than for Corey then. That's a big shame indeed then. New front wing going on that Williams car then, and back underway then. He will go then, medium compound tyres going on the Williams as well then. I think he might just stay in P13 and it's going to be close indeed with Vintage, but of course the pit exit is going to be favourable then to the Williams car. And he's got a new front wing. God, I was going to say he's got a new front wing on, but getting the power down is another factor then that can cause a few problems with a front wing if you get himself close to a wall. Smithy and Umabro then switching places. Unfortunately, Umabro's got wing damage on that left-hand side as well. Then quite a few drivers out there struggling with some damage then, or minor damage as it stands. And unfortunately, then we'll see what they can do then towards the end of the Grand Prix. Lap 19 then will turn into lap 20 very soon indeed. Then as the race leaders get themselves through then into sector 3, then Jinnah now all over the back then of Styles for that final podium place then. But of course, like Dylan said, he's going to have quite a few laps to go then as Luke has taken the lead of the Grand Prix into the final corner, and Jinnah might take the lead. Oh god, I think he's gone to the back of Styles then, and he's just pushing the hash through the corner there. Not quite legal, but yeah, there we are. But there we go. Dylan then I think is McLaren Civil War as well. I think it's referring back to when Astrodron and Jinnah were having a bit of a scrap. But Jinnah does take P3, as Dylan said then in the comments section. I think we might see a few more position changes then in that podium places, in the final podium place as well. Then in the latter stages of this race, then when the soft compound tyres for Jinnah start to have a bit of an issue then. But how long can they hold on is the question. He's going to have to do 6 laps then, including this one, and that's going to be quite a lot of laps then on the soft compound tyres indeed, isn't it? So we'll have to wait and see then if it's doable or not then. But he's powering on then. If Styles can hold on to him as well, then he could get himself back in the fight then for the race lead here as well then, potentially that is. But Jinnah then still using some grip in that soft compound tyre then to get himself back in the fight then for the top of the order. Beastie said that's one way to overtake then, as Dan looking to replicate gold Alpine W, says Equaz as well then. Dan is on a charge then. Dan is into the lead of the Grand Prix as well then, just in time then, and he is looking good indeed then, currently in the lead of the Grand Prix once again then for the Alpine team. Of course, Immortal got the win in Jeddah of course as well then in the Alpine machine then on Sunday night here in Jeddah as well. Of course, we've had the random wheel for both gold, silver and bronze, and it was Saudi Arabia as well for gold, and it was Miami last night for silver. So we haven't had Bahrain at all in any of the divisions, of course, that is. So Jinnah and Styles battling away again then into the final corner. Then Jinnah holds on to P3 for the time being then, but Styles I think now is using that hard compound tyre to bring himself back in contention for that podium place. And heading down the main straight then, we go towards turn 1 then. Is he going to go for it? Move that Dan takes the no, does he? Yes, he does. Dan takes the lead of the Grand Prix once again then on to lap 21. Then Jinnah holds on to P3 for the time being. But we're going to have to wait and see when those soft compound tyres start to drop off. If they haven't already, then I think they might have done already now. And Dylan might be on to a winner then as well. We've got Ginger Rage and Winnie and Serious Mushroom then flying into the first chicane. And yes, well, Ginger Rage is now in a bit of a sandwich then with the Aston Martins as it stands, as we head into Sector 1, sorry. We're still, goodness me, we're flying through this quickly. But not quite. Jinnah then is just about almost within that 1 second window of the top 2 then on on those soft compound tyres. Driver of the day candidates are out in the comment section of the YouTube stream. So get your votes in then. Luke, Styles, Jinner and Dan are your candidates then for the driver of the day. And there are your position changes as well then. So Styles is up 4 places. Could potentially, or he's lost out to DRS then of Jinner though, could potentially get himself back in contention then as well then for a podium place and on a back-to-back podium then for Styles as well then. But it's been a good race so far then. Dynamo Dan, sorry, P5 could be in contention as well then. We'll have to wait and see them. But the top 3 now in a bit of a fight then. They've got McLaren joining their ranks as well then as we go through onto lap 22 momentarily then. Into the final quarter we go. And Luke then is trying to hold on then, trying to go for a move then I think very soon. Rocket Lee has rocketed past Casey Dennett for P8 then into the final quarters as well then, and Rocket Lee then trying to get himself back in this race then, but he's doing a good job as Casey's clouted the wall on the exit then, and that could be damage then for the Ferrari driver, but he's managed to keep his car intact just about then as we head down the main straight once again then, and I think Casey's going to try and get himself back through then for P8 then, but these two carrying on their fight then for some points. Of course the points then have changed, the points of system has changed I should say then for bronze. It's points down to P15, and so from P4 it's from P5 I think it is now, it's 11 points for P5 then, and a singular point then between each position down to P15 from there. So P8 then would score I don't know 9, 10 so 9, 8, 7, I think 7 points then instead of 6 then usually, instead of 4 usually. So yeah, it's extra few points there for P8 this time, or this season I should say, for bronze. So there we go then. Get your votes in then for driver of the day then. You've got Luke, Styles, Jinner and Dan I should say then, and Dan is battling for the lead then in the Alpine. Then here he comes then into sector 2 then. He's now got Jinner, he's now got Styles for company as well then. The top 5 starting to bunch up once again, and Mr. Elite then is holding off Astra John then as well, but it looks like P6 at best then for Mr. Elite. Unfortunately then he's 4 seconds off the back of the pack then at this top of the order then. Here comes the attack then from the McLaren of Jinner then. He's going to go for it. I think he is. Oh no, my God, he's speeding through there, but not quite. The door was not open I should say then, and not in his favour there. But my goodness me then, all this battling is going to bring Dynamo Dan into the fight as well then, as Jinner's now caught up then with some DRS as well then as we go through then down the main straight then. Oh my, and Dan is under pressure then. Dan is under pressure then. Jinner trying to go around the outside, turn to the inside for turn 2 then. Kanko's got a penalty then somewhere, and Jinner's got it. I think Jinner's got it P2 then. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Dan I think having a bit of an issue then now of turn 2, and then almost opens the door for Styles to go through as well then as we head into lap 23 then. There is 3 laps to go then as we go into the last few laps then of this Grand Prix. So far it's been fantastic, and fantastic stuff indeed from bronze once again then. San is in the pit lane, Corey in the pit lane again, unfortunately for the Williams driver then, hoping to get himself a new set of boots, and then he'll go for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. This is the time to pit then for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix then, if you wish to. That is, San has had an issue. I think he's let Vintage go through then for P15, 13 I should say then. Corey then is out of the pits, but he's going to be in P16 then, potentially can go for that fastest lap point of the Grand Prix then. Out in front then, this is where the battle's getting a bit spicy. Dynamo Dan is now caught up in P5 as well. Then the top 5 here are going to be, I think they'll be, well, hopefully they're going to be the top 5 in this race then. But who can tell then in Saudi Arabia then, we never know. But this is going to get very spicy towards the end then. Who's your candidate then for the race winner then tonight then? I don't think you can pick from the top 5 really, or you have to pick from the top 5, but I'm not sure who you can pick from the top 5 that is, as we go through then on to lap 24 then, the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix then coming up very shortly now. Rocket Lee's back past Casey there as well into the final corner then. Oh dear, as Casey's dived back down the inside then, goodness me then, very opportune move indeed from the Ferrari then. I think you might have some DRS then down the straight as well then as we go into lap 24 then, the final lap of the Grand Prix. Rocket Lee's got the DRS then coming back past him into P8 then. Mr. Elite and Astrodron then battling away then as well then. Luke then has held on to the lead I should say then, onto the final, or onto the penultimate lap. Goodness me, I'm getting ahead of myself now. Jinner's soft compound tyres are doing a brilliant job then of holding on then for the time being, that is, but I'm not quite sure how long they can hold on then. Dylan has said they will not last then, but he's got himself up into P2 here and is looking potentially like he could get a race win as well then. It's on the cards potentially then when he's in the pit lane as well then, calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. I think he was on then very early on then, not quite sure why he has pitted again then, but fingers crossed then he is A-OK. Maybe some damage there as well then. Vintage is back past San for P13, and Here we go then into Sector 2. Then this is where the DRS zones start to activate then as well. Then on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, then what are we going to see here from the top 5 of the order? Then will we see some changes? Will we see some chopping and changing? Then will we see something else as well? Then Rocket Lee has passed Astra John then as well. Then goodness me, flying through as Rocket Lee. Then can he get himself caught up with Mr. Elite as well for that P6 position? Then as we go back to the top of the order, then this is where it's going to get spicy here indeed. Then here in Bronze Season 9 Round 4. This is a mystery Grand Prix. They haven't been able to practice as much as they usually do for this Grand Prix as well then, and it is Saudi Arabia, and let's see how it's going to unfold then into the final lap of the Grand Prix. Now then the top 5 are separated by less than a second, and here comes Dynamo Dan. Then he's on the charge and he's up into P4. He's passing Styles, then he's on a move. Then Jinner's taking the lead of the Grand Prix. Then can he, or can Dan go down the inside? Not quite. Then Luke tries to defend the inside, but he's going to be squeezed there as well then, and goodness me, round the outside goes Dynamo Dan then for that P3 position. Luke's been squeezed out to P4 then, goodness me, as we go through into turn 4, I should say, that it's all roles reversed. Then Luke's down to P4, then Dynamo down into podium places as well here. My God, that's close indeed. And Dynamo down and Dan are battling with Jinner's leading the way. If they start battling, Jinner on the soft compound tyres is going to be in command of this Grand Prix. Wow, this is fantastic stuff indeed. On to the hairpin as well. We go now. Sector 2 coming up. Then this is where it's going to start to get spicy as well. Then will there be some DRS games as well? Then we don't. We don't really want to see that because that could cause a few problems. Let's just say that. But here we go. Sector 2 now underway. Corey set the fastest lap of the race. That's a point for Corey if he can hold on to that as well. Then Dan is now putting the pressure on Jinner as well. We go into Sector 2. The DRS is going to open then for the Alpine now. And will he make the move for the lead, or will he try and hold off then the rest of the pack as we go through into Sector 3? Dynamo Dan's all over the back of him as well. There's contact, and Luke snuck back through. The Styles is getting involved as well. Then here we go then onto the back straight. This is where it could get spicy. It could get problematic indeed. And here we are then as we've got oh my God, they're going to be squeezed. There's contact between the two of them. Then Jinner's gone lost out. Then Luke's down the inside. Jinner goes back down the inside as well. Then here we go. It's going to get close indeed. There's contact then between Luke and Dynamo Dan. Then dropped up to P2. Then Hungry Styles back in the podium places, and Dan. And we got Jinner who wins the Grand Prix. My God, Jinner wins the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Then a fantastic stint indeed. And on the soft compound tyres, Jinner claims the victory here in Saudi Arabia. What a fantastic victory that is then from the McLaren driver. Soft compound tyres for 10 laps or so. That was pretty good stuff indeed. And he's got himself a race win in Bronze Season 9 Round 4. What a victory indeed then as well. Oh my goodness me, that was brilliant stuff indeed. Then Dynamo Dan then P2, then he snuck through then at the end as well. Then podium then for Dynamo Dan. He must be pretty proud about that. And good stuff from him as well. Then and Hungry Styles then repeats the feat. Then back-to-back P3 podiums for Hungry Styles as well. Then well done indeed then to the Haas driver. Then he's back on form then is Styles as well then. I think there was contact out at the final corner there between Luke and Dan, which has caused the issue there, and that's why those two had a bit of a problem then coming out, getting back on the power, then out of the corner. Then Dan P4, then Luke in P5. We might have some incident under review there as well. Then Jinner kept nose clean, then says Equaz as well. Then that final turn, then says Dylan. My goodness me, yes, Styles from Kamara Racer as well then, and brilliant stuff indeed. Mr. Elite then P6 in the end, then Astrodron P7, Rocket Lee P8 then as well. Serious Mushroom P9, then Casey rounds off the top 10. Then Ginger Age P11, then of course points down to P15, and so there's still points on offer here for Ginger Age. Then Winnie in P12, Smith in P13, Vintage in P14, and Corey in P15 as well then. Wow, what a race indeed. That was absolutely fantastic from Bronze, and well, it's brilliant stuff indeed as well then. Driver of the day then goes to, I'm not quite sure if that's Styles or Jinner, but it's one of the two of them then as well. Then maybe they can both have it then, but brilliant stuff indeed then as Rocket Lee left the session as well. But running for Rocket Lee then battling back and then keeping on going as well. Then I think he might be able to get some more positions as well then with the with potential incidents that might be reviewed after that one. But Jinner then claims the victory here for McLaren. What a race indeed then for the orange, for the Papaya McLaren team as well then. And Dynamo Dan then in P2. Then Hungry Styles rounds off the podium once again then in P3 then. Back-to-back podiums then for Styles as well. Then he's going to be pretty pleased about that as well. What a move after the line by Jinner, says Warwick. Says Andy, I should say that. I think he's referring to the car that was lost control pretty much out there. But there we go then. 38 minutes and 58 seconds. We are done and dusted here in Jeddah. That is done and dusted for round 4 as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed then. And that is the classification then for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Jinner then is the race winner then. Dynamo Dan P2, Hungry Stars in P3. Dan P4, then Luke P5, Mr. Elite P6, Astrodron P7, Rocket Lee P8, Serious Mushroom P9, Casey in P10, Jinner in P11, Winnie P12, Smithy P13, Vintage in P14, Corey in P15, San rounds off the P16, but unfortunately had a bit of an issue at the end of that. Umabra then P17, Real Ashton P18, Decanco in P19, and Jake the Slayer in P20. But no retirements, no pits and quits then in bronze tonight then. Absolutely brilliant stuff indeed, and credit to all the drivers then who took part to make sure they got themselves to the checkered flag tonight as well. Brilliant. Right then, let's get some interviews underway. We will start off with our race winner then, Jinner. Jinner, a fantastic race win on the cards tonight then, and of course you were battling in the first stint anyway with the top of the order, the top 5 at the top. At the time it was the top 8 in the first stint before the pit stop phases. Did you think the win was on the cards for yourself tonight then after a fantastic qualifying?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'd already planned it if it was Jeddah to go on the mediums and then onto the softs. I saved my brand new softs from qualifying, so I knew I could do the stint, just the first stint. I just had to keep them grouped up so they were battling, so then I could catch up after this. I pitted.
And of course, you went onto the soft compound tyres after extending the medium stint, then with Dynamo Dan, then who pitted a lap earlier than you. Were you confident on the soft compound tyres that they were going to get to the end like that, or were you a bit worried that those on the hard compound tyre might come back at you towards the end of the stint?
No, to be honest, I knew I'd catch them by 2 or 3 laps before the end, and then I just had to make it count. So if I got past them, I knew there were no chance of them getting back because it'd have been finished anyway.
Brilliant stuff indeed. And well, we saw a pretty fantastic battle throughout the field. Then, throughout everybody, I think, in this race, to be fair. But you had some fantastic battles yourself. Then, did you see what happened then on that final corner then between the rest of between I think it was the Kicksauber of Luke and the Alpine as well?
To be honest, I didn't pay much attention to who it was. I just seen 2 cars, one either side of me, and they both had a lot more speed. So I broke early, knowing that they'd probably outbrake themselves, both go wide, so I could take inside and go straight down with the RS.
And it worked out pretty well indeed. Then you got your first win of the season. Then are you looking for more then in Portugal next week?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't mind Portugal, to be honest, but I'm waiting for Imola, and I'm hoping Imola's wet.
There we go then. Well, that's probably treacherous for some people as well then in the bronze.
Yeah.
Probably don't want to see that, but well done indeed then, Jinner. Then first victory of the season as well then for the McLaren driver as well. The brilliant stuff indeed. We'll crack on then with Dynamo Dan P2 tonight then. And well, did you think P2 was on the cards then at the start of that one?
I did at the start, and then it gradually faded away, but came back. And sorry, my mic's unplugged. I'm back.
Well,
did you get that?
We can still hear you.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought so at the start, and then it faded away, but amazingly, it came back to me right at the end.
And like I said, you got yourself back in the fight then in the last couple of laps or so there, and we're just maybe being a bit patient then, just waiting for something like that to happen in the last couple of laps as well, and got the opportunity to go through then for that P2 position, and the best result I think for this season so far, isn't it? I believe. But yeah, how was your thoughts when you crossed the line then?
Yeah, relieved. I didn't realise how close everyone was. Jinner flew past me on the softs, and I couldn't catch up with Hungry Styles, and they were in a bit of a train, so I couldn't catch up with them. But eventually, when I did, everyone was together, and yeah, a bit of patience paid off. Luckily, I think it was about the 3rd last bend coming onto the straight, I lost my back wheel, and I lost all the places. But then I just literally bent all my ERS down the straight, and then obviously that last turn was just chaos, but paid out in my favour.
Fantastic stuff indeed. And yeah, like I said, more podiums under your belt and more maybe a race win coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, potentially. Who knows?
Good stuff indeed. Well, we look forward to that. So that'll be all right.
I just need a strategist.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't have any of those, so yeah, never mind. But yeah, I'm sure you can Google somebody, and they'll be better than your previous race strategists. But yeah, but yeah, good stuff indeed, Dynamo Dan. Then in the Red Bull MP2 tonight as well. Styles is Styles joined us? I'm not quite sure if he did. Hungry Styles, where are you? He's there, but he's muted. Right.
Yeah.
There he is.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry.
There we go. We got Styles on the podium. Then once again, back-to-back podiums as well. Then you've turned everything up. Then this so far this season. And you're back on the podium here tonight. Then did you fancy Jeddah then at the beginning of this one when the wheel was spinning around, or was it not one on the cards for yourself?
Yes, I was struggling in Jedi with practicing, so I wasn't expecting a podium today. So I thought maybe in top 10, but didn't expect to be on the podium. But I had good pace in the beginning, and I was following everyone, and I didn't try to overtake because I was waiting for someone to make a mistake and then to get to overcome him. But I was just waiting patiently behind the other cars.
And like I said, once again, then after Japan last week, another podium then for you. Maybe a championship charge is on the cards for Styles.
I don't know. We're gonna see. Not every track is good for me. So I like some tracks, but not every track. Like Bahrain. If we drive Bahrain today, then I don't think I will be on the podium. Of maybe in the top 10, but not on the podium.
And will we be expecting more podiums from Styles then in the next few races as well? We've got Portugal,
I will try. I will try my best. I can only try, so we will see. So now in the last turn, I was stuck behind Dan and Luke because they crashed in the last turn, so I couldn't overtake. So and then I saw an opportunity, and I was on the podium. So.
Well, fantastic stuff indeed. Like I said, back-to-back podiums for Styles, and he's on a championship charge. So we'll see.
We will try
with a trophy then at the end of the season, shall we?
Yeah.
Good stuff indeed. Then well done indeed to the top three. Then of course, Gina the race winner. Then Dynamo Dan in P2, then and Styles P3 here in the Mystery Grand Prix for round 4. Then which was here in Jeddah. We'll be back to normal programming then next week. Then we'll be back here for bronze in a week's time. Then in Portugal, gold will take us through Portugal first on Sunday, then followed by silver on Monday, and then we'll be back here for more action from bronze as well. Then so stay tuned to ALR. There's plenty more action coming up then, and we'll see you very soon.